getting your marketing data in the cloud and joining with other business systems gives you the possibility to join ads data, with screen recording data, with web analytics data, with CRM data, with lifetime values in a single place.
Welcome to AdMine Analytics. My name is Adam Collings. I'm the Director of Marketing, and I'm here with Mike Query, who's our founding engineer. Right now, we're going to talk about GA4. It's been looming over the analytics space for quite a while now, but we finally have some firm deadlines that Google's given us, so we're going to dive right in. Mike, how is GA4 different from UA or the traditional Google Analytics experience?
All right, I made a list for you, Adam. And it won't be the same for all advertisers. But number one, it's more mobile and cross-device friendly. We can send traffic from mobile, apps, and web to the same sort of reporting property. Two, we get a totally new reporting interface. Now, some good and some bad. Not as many pre-built reports, but we get a way more flexible analysis tool called Explore. Number three, in the free version, we get our data to BigQuery for free. That used to only be available in the enterprise version. We now get it for free. Number four, we get a little bit more volume in the free version. We get 1 million hits per day in the free version. That's 3 times more than what we got in UA. Number five, it's event-based instead of session-based, user and event-based, which means we look at the data a little bit differently. Rather than thinking about session attribution, now we think about user attribution first. The default attribution model is first touch on a device. That's different than UA. UA was last non-direct touch. And then from an architecture perspective, we don't have views any longer. We just have properties. So that's a little different. Now the meta around this is Google's opening the door and encouraging us to use their cloud. They want us to build data products on top of it, from having raw access to our data in BigQuery to do more advanced analysis. They want us to be able to join our business data, our web analytics data with our other business data in warehousing. And the third-party context is under attack. The loss of third-party cookies is imminent on us, and so for the first party context, the data that we own and can activate is just relatively more important, and Google knows that, and they're giving us doors to be able to address that.
So you've given us kind of a breakdown of a number of things that are different about GA4. What's the timeline on this? How much time do we have to prepare to get ready to kind of think about it in these new ways?
So we know that Google's told us that on July 1st, 2023, they're going to turn off universal analytics tracking. They won't be collecting data any longer. If you're an enterprise customer on GA360, you get an extra 3 months, so October 1st, 2023. They've told us that we'll have at least 6 months of access to the data in the interface. While we're not collecting new data, we should have access to the data for at least 6 months.
And so as a marketing team, how should I be getting ready for this? What should I be doing to prepare? I mean, it sounds like it's a completely different product. It sounds like there's some new doors that are going to open, some old doors that are going to close, and I have a fixed amount of time to get my ducks in a row. So what should I be thinking about?
Yeah, so best is being ready for that timeline and being ready in advance so that when Universal Analytics turns off, you have historical data in GA4. So it's not trying to, you don't have analysis and reporting.
So rather than like going one to the next day, best to get it going right now so that you're collecting the information.
Right, best to hit January or July 1st, 2023 and have 6 months of historical data or a year of historical data. Better would be just at least being ready when July 1st comes and failure.
Not logging in and seeing no more
like
data
zeros.
collected.
Zeros. And failure would be just not being ready for that coming July 1st and going, crap, we're not there.
Okay. So we're going to get into thinking about kind of some of these concepts and what the rosy picture looks like of a nicely deployed GA4 and what that means. Before we get to that, what are some of the friction points that people should be aware of as they go through this? So let's say tomorrow we're gonna have a meeting with my marketing team. We're gonna talk about this. What should we be aware of and planning for that's gonna potentially throw people off as they go through this process?
Yeah, one is no plan doesn't equal no problems. No plan equals problems.
Okay.
So you definitely have to have a plan. The architecture is different. So instead of tracking things in page views and events, we just have events. And we have, instead of category, action, and label in Universal Analytics, now we have just a bunch of parameters, and we have to decide how we want to organize the information that we want to track. Some of the default e-commerce stuff will be very similar, but for folks that are tracking things outside of a normal e-commerce flow or in addition to a normal e-commerce flow, we'll have to think about how we organize that data, and then how that cascades down into the reporting that we look at. So the data sets, that's maybe second area, is the data sets, the Universal Analytics data sets are different. So what we have in reporting in Tableau or Power BI or Data Studio is going to have to look at the data differently because the data is organized differently in GA4. So that's the second area, is you have to think about where are we using our analytics data in our org, because we need to recreate those data sets in order for those reports to continue to function.
So the obvious answer to, what's at risk if I get this wrong, obvious answer is you log in one day and you try and do some like look back and it just shows zeros, or it shows zeros for the day that you're looking at.
Yeah.
Aside from that, let's say you kind of go through a half-hearted process here, or it doesn't become a priority for you until you get closer and closer. Like what is at risk for people in the near term and maybe in the long term if they don't think about GA4 the way that an analytics specialist would?
So one is just you're missing insights, right? Like if you don't have data, or if you have insufficient data, or it's not organized in a way that is easy to consume for you and your team, then you're just missing activities, and maybe even worse than you had before if you haven't prepared. That's sort of like what you can lose. Then there's the missed opportunities, which is some of the benefits that we get here are being able to get raw access to our data and move to the cloud to do more granular analysis, to build more meaningful reporting, and to have ownership over the data, to have data storage. So we could miss out on insights that we could have had. We could miss out on data ownership that we could have had. And we could have teams operating inefficiently in interfaces and tools that they're not yet familiar with.
My guess is that there's people that are going to be, if I were not here inside this nice cocoon of like amazing analytics professionals and I was a marketing director, I'd be a little worried. I mean, you're using terms that like I hear about having, these data warehouses, but if you're comfortable with what traditional Google Analytics has been giving you, what are help me, talk me off the ledge of like your own data warehouse and like manipulating the data, and you talked about more granular ownership. What does that mean for me on the positive side?
Yeah. The positive side means when you get ownership over the data, it means that if you ever need to, say you learn something, say you go, we've looked at our channels for the last 4 or 5 years thinking about organic search is just one big bundle. And you go, you know what? We actually have a way, if we look at our Search Console data, we can say our organic search, we can actually pretty confidently break into branded and non-branded based on which pages rank for which terms. So with that sort of an idea, we can actually look at our organic search data in a branded and non-branded context. Well, if you own your data, you can take that new idea and go, this is useful to us. You can apply that retroactively to all the data that you have. So now instead of just starting on today and thinking out about that from today forward, you can go, let's look at the last 4 years worth of data in that light. And let's get insights starting today, not waiting till we collect data and generate that. So ownership of the data means we can reprocess things in the past. If we track something that was broken, it was tagged wrong, but we knew what it should have been, just fix it in the data. Like we don't have to worry about not being able to edit and then we can analyze more deeply. So
maybe give us a couple examples of like what reports I will now be able to create that I wasn't able to do quite as easily.
That's a great question. So imagine this. Part of it is there's two sets of areas where that might be relevant. One is just more granularity in your web analytics data, just diving deeper, asking a more complicated question, like how many people did this, followed by this, followed by that, followed by this. That's hard to get in a segment in Universal Analytics. We get unfiltered, we get like sampled data in the free version, and in the premium version, it's the criteria that we have to build those sort of segments to look at, those narrow views of the customer journey is limited. But some of the biggest opportunity comes from joining our web analytics data with our other business data. So imagine a report where you could say, let's have a look at the customer journey like this. What was the paid ad search term? Then what was the keyword match on that? What was the ad headline? That's all Google Ads sort of data, like search data. Then there's the web analytics data, followed by what was the landing page. That's web analytics data. Then we could say, let's look at the specific screen recording for that visitor of a landing page. That's session recording data. What's the conversion actions that visitor took? Then we can start to ask the CRM questions too. What lead quality was that visitor? What revenue did we generate from the first purchase? What was the lifetime value? Imagine a reporting interface that gave you all of that in one place. That's the benefit.
That's what success looks like.
That's what success looks like. That's what it looks like if you get all the data in one place.
At AdMind, we're here to help marketers accurately measure the impact of their marketing. So if you're struggling to grasp what it's going to take to get all the right people, process, and technology in place to properly leverage GA4 and leveraging it to use your marketing data to get the insights that your team needs to grow your business, fill out a form, let's chat. I'm sure that we can be helpful. The ultimate secret to success with GA4 is